Ever wondered how terms like white, black, or yellow came to define human race? The story behind these labels is more complex than you might imagine, spanning centuries of history. Surprisingly, racial identity wasn't always a significant aspect of human society. Realizing being white or black is a relatively recent phenomenon. For a long time, people lived without identifying themselves in terms of race. While white people confidently identified themselves as such, black people were often labeled as such by others, against their will, paralleling the labeling of Asians as yellow. Tragically, assigning significance to skin color without scientific or biological basis has led to numerous historical tragedies. Let's dive into the intricate history of racial identity.
Octo Wonders.
Discrimination has deep historical roots, stemming from ancient disputes over superiority among different races and tribes. In Europe, one of the earliest forms of discrimination targeted the Jewish population due to religious differences. Mistreatment of Native Americans by Europeans began with cultural discrimination, rooted in the belief that they needed to be civilized. However, racial discrimination, particularly based on skin color, gained prominence relatively recently. European exploration during the 15th century Age of Discovery played a significant role in raising awareness of skin color differences. As Europeans encountered diverse populations worldwide, they began to recognize their relatively lighter skin tone. Accounts from that time, such as Vasco da Gama's voyages to Africa in the late 15th century, mention Africans testing whether the whiteness of Europeans was natural or a result of dye. However, despite these encounters, Europeans did not consider themselves white for a long time. Nevertheless, the term white was initially used to distinguish Europeans from Asians or Persians rather than Africans. What's intriguing is how the creation of the white race wasn't just about categorization. It was a means of dividing and controlling laborers, especially during European colonial expansion. Even amidst the Enlightenment, a time celebrated for its advocacy of freedom and equality, some influential figures harbored racially discriminatory beliefs. Take, for instance, the renowned philosophers Voltaire and Montesquieu. Despite their progressive ideals, they not only engaged in the slave trade but also perpetuated harmful theories asserting racial superiority. Their writings also suggested that some races were better than others, which caused harm and division among people. Even scientists of the era, like Carl Linnaeus, whose groundbreaking work revolutionized taxonomy, fell into this pattern. In his 1735 publication, Systema Naturae, Linnaeus categorized humans into 4 races, each described by physical traits and assigned specific characteristics. Europeans were labeled as white, serious, and inventive. Asians as yellow, melancholy, and governed by opinions. Americans as red, choleric, and governed by customs. And Africans as black, phlegmatic, and governed by caprice. These descriptions perpetuated prevalent racial stereotypes at the time. However, it's crucial to recognize that the concept of race is a social construct rather than a biological reality. It is primarily based on observable physical characteristics such as skin color, hair texture, and facial features, rather than on genetic differences. Genetic studies have shown that there is more genetic variation within racial groups than between them, debunking the idea of distinct biological races. Modern science, including advancements like the Human Genome Project, has widely discredited the notion of race as a biological concept. The project revealed that human genomes are 99.9% identical across the globe, emphasizing our shared humanity. Additionally, anthropological research has further underscored the social nature of race. Studies of human skeletal remains have revealed that physical traits traditionally associated with race, such as skull shape and facial features, do not neatly align with racial categories. This disjunction between biological traits and racial categories highlights the arbitrary nature of racial classifications and reinforces the argument that race is a social construct. As we reflect on the complex history of race, let's remember the words of Toni Morrison, acclaimed American novelist. "Race doesn't exist, racism does."